I shall.
Okay, right. Well, good evening and welcome to Axiom Flux, episode 5, season 3. And we're going to do a chat about Nibiru, Planet X. It's been done a million times, I know, but I don't think we've ever covered it on Axiom before, so we might as well get round to it. And anyway, I'm joined tonight with by Predator Jeff. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Stav. How's it going, matey?
Not too bad. Thanks for coming in. I know I was hoping that there'd be, as usual, one or two other people, more specialists on this, but that could have joined us. But they may come in, so we might see them come in later. If not, we'll just plough through with what we've got. And I hope if anybody wants to listen, they'll find it interesting. I will put up the chat box on the side. So if anybody wants to leave any comments, be my guest. That'd be great. So without further ado, I should bring my screen share. I'm going to kick us off with an article. It's a bit lengthy, so do bear with me. But like I say, Jeff, anytime you want to pop in, just unmute and say, I've got something to say about that or whatever. But it's quite lengthy, so as soon as we start that, we get through it, and then we can have a chat about what your thoughts is on it, and perhaps any others that you want to put in or whatever. So let's.
Well, I shall let you. I'll let you crack on then with the article, and I'll mute the mic.
Okay. Okay. Let's just actually, Jeff, if you could just tell me, can you see that before it's news article?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's a bit small.
Okay. It's a bit small. Well, that's all right. I'm gonna. I don't know if I want to bring it up anymore.
Not full screen or anything.
It will probably clog things up. This computer is not really good, unfortunately. So if you just follow along with us as best you can, yeah. I'll read it anyway.
I'll let you crack on then.
Okay, mate. There's a scientific case for Nibiru, Planet X system. It does touch on a little couple of bits of Sakurai Sitchin, etc., which is not factual, but he backs it up with quite a lot of stuff. But I'm not going to go into that because that's another would warrant another dozen episodes, I would think. Anyway, we'll kick it off with this scientific case for Nibiru and Planet X system. The then latest NASA trophy piece surveying the heavens, the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer WISE was capable of detecting the faint heat emanating from the dwarf star 25 times the distance between Earth and the Sun, or 1/3 light year away. Actually, wait a minute. Is this the right one? I'm sure it's. Anyway, launched in January 2009, WISE discovered at least 1,000 dwarf. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. This ain't. No. Wait a minute. Yes, we're on the wrong page, so we'll start that again. I thought that didn't sound right, so my apologies for that. Hopefully we can get back to the right page. Eventually, he says. Eventually. I'll have to. It's not really playing ball tonight, this, but such is life. And is it going to play ball now? Oh, what's this rubbish? Get off. This is the sort of thing you have to. This is the sort of thing you have to put up with in the nowadays. I've even got a blocker on and everything, but it don't work. That's like this year. The internet has gone completely cranky. But there you are. Right, let's start again. Scientific case for Nibiru and Planet X system. The Nibiru Planet X system and its potential impacts on our solar system. A scientific case for Nibiru and Planet X system. By Joachim. No, that's not right, is it? Joachim Hajopian. Right. Speculating and theorizing about the existence of yet undiscovered planets in our solar system has been bounced around for centuries. Prior to each new discovery of another outer planet has come detections of anomalies in the erratic, inexplicable motions of the outermost known planet. For instance, before Neptune's existence was determined, for decades, astronomers had been theorizing that Uranus, discovered in 1781, irregular movement may have been caused by the presence of yet another undiscovered planet. Indeed, that was the case in 1846 when Neptune was first sighted and identified. The now dethroned ninth planet Pluto, discovered in 1930, relegated in 2006 to minor dwarf planet status, and Pluto's later found moon Charon were then used to explain the observed wobbles in Uranus and Neptune's respective orbits. Thus, errors in calculating precise positions of known planets hold an enduring pattern of later confirmation of cause determined by each newly discovered planet. Hence, for over a century, scientists have debated that yet more major planets and dwarf planets belonging to our solar system are still out there in space, waiting to be found and existing anomalies to be explained. Way back in 1914, Chilean astronomer Carlos Munoz Ferrada predicted accurately that the powers that be would attempt to cover up Planet X when it comes barreling towards the Earth. Ferrada referred to Nibiru / Planet X as a comet planet because it has the size of a planet but speed and elliptical orbit of a comet. The most controversial undiscovered planet operating within our solar system, dubbed Nibiru or Planet X, was made famous in 1976 by noted researcher author Zecharia Sitchin in his best-selling book, The 12th Planet. As one of few scholars able to read and interpret Sumerian clay tablets, Sitchin utilized those ancient texts to make a highly plausible case for the existence of Planet X, also known as Planet Nibiru, the Destroyer in ancient scripts, coming closest to the planet every 3,600 years. The Sumerians lived over 6,000 years ago in what is today Iraq. They are credited as the first known civilization on Earth, inventing mathematics, writing, agriculture, law, schools, astronomy, and astrology. The Sun in our solar system is similar to 90% of the solar systems in the Milky Way galaxy, all part of a binary star system. There you go, Jeff, containing 2 or more suns. The Planet X system can be considered a mini constellation consisting of our sun's twin, classified a brown dwarf star called Nemesis. This dark star is largely invisible, even with the infrared, due to its surrounding red.
Hello, Stav, your sound's gone.
Pardon?
Your sound went for a while.
Oh, did it? Oh, right. Well, where did we get to? The Sun in our solar system, 90% of the solar system.
Yeah, start on that paragraph again, I would.
All right, and if you didn't get it, Jeff, I'll start that paragraph again. The Sun in our solar system is similar to 90% of the solar system in the Milky Way galaxy, all part of a binary star system containing 2 or more suns. The Planet X system can be considered a mini constellation consisting of our sun's twin, classified a brown dwarf star called Nemesis. This dark star is largely invisible, even with infrared, due to its surrounding red iron oxide dust clouds. Nemesis possesses at least 3 planets that revolve around it, Nibiru and Helium, both with moons, and are Doba. Though Nibiru travels along an elliptical shaped orbit and enters our solar system approximately every 3,600 years, one by one crossing the orbits of our solar system planets, it does not revolve around our sun. In 1990, researcher author Zecharia Sitchin interviewed the supervising astronomer of the U.S. Naval Observatory, Robert S. Harrington, to discuss Harrington's recent discovery of the red planet X. Harrington set up a special telescope observatory in New Zealand to track Planet X, but the renowned head of the Naval Observatory suddenly died mysteriously at the age of 50 after a rare form of cancer under suspicious circumstances. His wife is convinced he was murdered for allegedly leaking too much information about Planet X. Yet 2 years after the Sitchin-Harrington interview and just months prior to Harrington's January 1993 death, a NASA press release was still publicly embracing Nibiru / Planet X as real. Unexplained deviations in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune point to a large outer solar system body of 4 to 8 Earth masses on a highly tilted orbit beyond 7 billion miles from the Sun. Also in 1992, a confident NASA scientist named Ray T. Reynolds went on record proclaiming astronomers are so sure of the 10th planet, they think there is nothing left but to name it. NASA at that time did everything but scream Nibiru from the mountain tops. But ever since Harrington's untimely death, with few exceptions, the lid has been tightly sealed on any more accurate information released by the mainstream sources directly to the public. Apparently, the US government had made the decision to keep Nibiru and its projected earthly destruction under wraps. In recent years, the feds have sent out trolls to disseminate disinformation and false propaganda in attempts to debunk any would-be truth-tellers. The elite ensured that hired shills are planted to concentrated disinfo campaigns, smearing lies to prevent the story that never quite goes away from ever having full disclosure. Pardon me. Hyped up predictions of past non-event disasters are most common, like the recent predicted May 28th San Andreas earthquake, purposely timed with the opening of the film of the same name, or the 2012 Mayan calendar doomsday non-event, or the 5/5/2000 Ice Age that never cometh, and who can't forget the Y2K fiasco, and on so it goes. The more of these end days predictions there are proven to be false, the more chance that any legitimate warnings of Planet X will be summarily scoffed at and ignored. The boy who cried wolf syndrome effectively desensitizes the human population into doubting any actual evidence or truth about Nibiru will ever be taken seriously by any reasonable sane person. Notwithstanding the aluminium foil hat crowd of conspiracy realists who are more often right than wrong these days when it comes to exposing the myriad of government cover-ups, false flags and lies. The effects of such a large celestial body as Nibiru Planet X, estimated to be from 4 to up to 8 times the size of the Earth, re-entering our solar system is generating off-the-chart internet frenzy in 2015. Convinced it will cause enormous amounts of huge-sized space debris from an asteroid belt, potential comets, one recently sighted 2.5 miles wide, and countless meteors plummeting violently to the Earth. It's believed that the impact of such giant objects crashing into the Earth will push the reset button for another axis tilt, likely causing yet another mass extinction and radically altering global climate zones, raising sea levels dramatically to reshape coastlines worldwide, decreasing land mass and increasing ocean water surface. Excuse me a minute. In addition to tilting the Earth's axis, it's speculated that Nibiru's gravitational upset and electromagnetic fireworks on our planet will set off mammoth cracks in the tectonic plates, resulting in never before seen killer quakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, tidal waves, hurricanes, record winds, and massive flooding and tornadoes. Scientific evidence. Oops. Rather than dig into ancient mythology or biblical prophecy, as so much of the current speculation about Nibiru already covers, This presentation will limit its focus to reviewing the most tangible, credible pieces of scientific evidence supported by astronomers and astrophysicists, who in recent years have risked destroying their careers, reputations, their very lives promoting the controversial findings and conclusions. This year, more than ever, the movement's growing authenticity of the Planet X story is in fact gathering momentum, at least garnering lukewarm support from some rather high-profile notables within the scientific community. This article will chronicle this growing body of empirical evidence validating not only Planet X's existence, but its eminent approach towards Earth. This highly controversial Planet X system entering our solar system with potential catastrophic implications was first featured in the Washington Post article way back in 1983. NASA's infrared astronomical telescope found the mysterious planet, possibly as large as Jupiter, near the constellation of Orion, as distant a time as 32 years ago. As distant a time as 32 years ago, it was considered to be the closest heavenly body to the Earth beyond Pluto. Researchers activist John Moore has long asserted that a number of his inside ex-military and government intelligence sources have independently confirmed that a top-secret meeting took place in 1979 in New Orleans briefing room, where the highest-ranking U.S. naval flag officers were first informed of the coming inevitable Planet X disaster that would occur within their lifetime. In October 2003, a highly significant and telling Department of Defense-sponsored government paper was published called An Abrupt Climate Change Scenario and Its Implications for the United States National Security. This paper notes that the ocean saline levels were dropping, causing thermohaline circulation collapse, a serious disruption of the Atlantic survey belt that pushes warm salt water near the surface circulating northward from the south, while deeper cooler water flows southward, would have a devastating impact on global climate. The paper concludes with the following sobering predictions: wars over energy, food and water resources, increasing drought over wider land mass, and violent climate change effects, producing more frequent, higher magnitude natural catastrophes of all kinds. A dozen years later, all of these most disturbing developments are clearly manifesting. Of course, the current standard politically correct scientific dogma is that the global warming, aka climate change emanating from CO2 greenhouse gases, is the obvious culprit. This mass deception is designed to conveniently obscure the multiple dire effects caused by many decades of the globalist geoengineering harp, weather modification and weather wars, not to mention the hidden non-existent Planet X system hurtling towards us deeper inside our solar system that's likely causing tremendous changes at the surface of all our solar system planets, of course including our own Earth's atmosphere and global surface. In March 2010, the mainstream UK newspaper, The Telegraph, ran a story entitled "Search On for Death Star That Throws Out Deadly Comets." The subheadline announced that NASA is looking for the twin sun, that's the brown dwarf star nemesis slowly circling our sun and periodically catapulting deadly comets into the Earth. So, as tight-lipped NASA has been over the years, little tidbits reflecting that it's still keeping an ever-present eye out for the cataclysmic Planet X system still manages to seep through to the public every now and then from so-called reputable news sources. The article goes on to state that the star that's 5 times the size of Jupiter is the prime suspect that wiped out the dinosaur 65 million years ago. Now I'll load this next page here, Jeff. This is the one I should have, yeah, this is the one I saw. The then latest NASA trophy piece surveying the heavens, the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, WISE, was capable of detecting the faint heat.
Dav, can I jump in there, mate?
Yeah, sure, jump in.
Right, I'd like to criticise that last article, actually, because the figures aren't adding up there. It's contradicted itself straight away, because if you look at it was saying that 4 to 8 times the size of Earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jupiter is like probably about bloody 100 times the size of Earth anyway. It's massive, Jupiter. It's huge, right? Now, and then they're saying that it's about 5 times the size of Jupiter in another statement a bit later. So these figures aren't adding up. So something strange about that.
Oh yeah, well they're all different surveys and different articles collected over this period.
Not from the same. It's not from the same source.
No.
Right, okay. And can I also point out that it's not actually part of our solar system, is it? Because it's orbiting another star, which is Nemesis is the star, isn't it?
It's a binary system.
Yeah, I know. We've got our sun and our planets circle our sun. But what I'm saying is Nibiru and I can't remember the other name of the other planet. They're circling actually a different star, aren't they? They're not circling our sun, so it's not technically part of our solar system, is it?
Well, it's a mini system within our solar system. Well, but it's these are articles. These are all separate articles. What NASA's released and what people and scientists, Royal Naval top scientists and people have released. Now, they may not be looking at the same thing. Nemesis ain't necessarily Planet X. Planet X ain't necessarily Nibiru. Nibiru may not necessarily be Planet 9, which I'll reveal in a minute. It ain't necessarily any other dwarf planet that they're finding every other month.
It's all very vague then. There's no actual classifications or anything.
Yeah, well, when somebody says Nibiru, they go Sitchin, Sumerians, Anunnaki. That's fine. But what I think taken overall, these may be separate planets that may be referred to. Who knows what they are, because they're not even discovered.
Anyway, I'll let you carry on with your article. I won't interrupt you while you're doing that. I'll just mute the mic for now, yeah?
Yeah, this is not facts. This is just repeating what other people have said, and I don't know what's what. Yeah,
it's very vague and a bit sort of guessy. You know, it sounds a bit like they're guessing a lot. There's not doesn't seem to be any actual hard facts to do with it.
It's just articles released by mainstream newspapers, articles released by NASA, articles released by top naval scientists. The only one that could be classed as fictional is Zachariah Sitchin.
Right. Okay. Right. I'll mute the mic anyway and let you carry on with this article.
Well, if you've got an open mind, you could say NASA's fictional. A lot of people don't believe in NASA. They say it's just they put up anything, Which is
a lot of credibility in modern science anyway, because they constantly get things wrong, and then they have to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch. So that's the way I look at it. But anyway, carry on, Stav. I'll just mute the mic. All right.
I think basically it's all conjecture. So good points, though, mate. Thanks for that, Jeff. Launched in January 2009, WISE discovered at least 1,000 dwarf stars located within 25 light years from the sun until October 2010, when its coolant was scheduled to run out. Twice as far out as Nemesis is the Oort cloud, which is the sphere of icy bodies surrounding our solar system. With the Planet X system entering our solar system, its gravitational force is believed to launch trajectories of comets and asteroids that are large-sized space debris objects of icy rocks and dust that bombard our solar system planets, including the Earth. Professor John Matisse of the University of Louisiana Lafayette believes that this nemesis that includes planet Nibiru as part of Planet X system. That is the answer there, Jeff. Nemesis is meant to be the brown dwarf or the binary star, which includes the planet Nibiru, which is Sitchin's Anunnaki story from the Sumerian text, and the whole thing is called Planet X system.
Right. Separate system.
That's the mini solar cycle of our binary star within what we call our solar cycle of our main star. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense, Stav. It's a different solar system that's sort of intertwined with ours, if you like.
Yes, that's right.
Those planets circle that brown dwarf or whatever it is, and our planets circle our sun. So it's yeah, right. Carry on anyway, mate.
Absolutely. The Sirius, the binary, the closest star, the brightest star in the sky, which is 4.5 light years away, Sirius, the Sirius A and Sirius B. Sirius B has got its own planets around it, and Sirius A has. So, well, allegedly. So,
That's,
but
Sirius, that's the dog star in it, Stav.
Yeah, but the two suns revolve around each other, but they've got their own planetaries that revolve around them, type thing. I guess. I don't know. Again, if anybody can help us out on the chat, well, that'd be fine. But you'll keep an eye on that for us, Jeff, while I've got this up. Anyway, Planet X system is mainly responsible for supplying such a concentrated volley of comets through the Oort cloud into our inner solar system. In 2012, LiveScience.com and Examiner.com both featured headline stories heralding the probable discovery of Planet X. Astronomer Rodney Gomes of Rio's National Observatory in Brazil had just presented new evidence of the mysterious planet at a meeting of the American Astronomical Society. Gomes demonstrated that the icy objects outside Neptune's orbit in the Oort cloud display an irregular movement that cannot be explained by known mathematical laws as astrophysics, but can be occasional influence of so-called Planet X. Additionally, the dwarf planet Sedna's peculiar orbit can also only be accounted for by the presence of a large unknown planet. Gomez's findings were very well received by his peers, believing that he got his math right. But of course, not wanting to endorse Planet X completely, they dutifully towed the scientific-government line of status quo by tempering their enthusiasm with a call for more research and posing alternative theories that may not involve another large planet. Then in November of last year, IFLscience.com reported evidence that 2 new undiscovered planets may be lurking in our solar system. A January 2015 article from Space.com also addressed the possibility of 2 more planets beyond Neptune and Pluto moved in the outer limits of our solar system, subtly influencing the orbits of the dwarf planets. La Fonte of Madrid's University of Complutense stated, "This excess of objects with unexpected orbital parameters makes us believe that some invisible forces are altering the distribution of the orbital elements of the ETNOs, extreme trans-Neptunian objects, and we consider that the most probable explanation is that other unknown planets exist beyond Neptune and Pluto." Still, another team of astronomers in March 2014, this is important, these two, Chadwick Trujillo and Scott Shepard, announced the discovery of 2012 VP113, another ETNO joining Sedna as 2 known members of the inner Oort cloud. The comet-filled sphere that lies just beyond the Kuiper Belt and Pluto. Trujillo and Shepard claim these 2 objects' orbits comply with the gravitational presence of a big perturber up to even 10 times the mass of the Earth. Major unheard of changes are currently appearing on the surface and the atmosphere of the Sun, and all the planets. Astronomer Mike Lockwood from California Rutherford Appleton National Laboratories found that since in 1901, the Sun's overall magnetic field has increased by 230%. Solar flares and storms have also increased. The Earth's moon now has a 6,000 kilometer deep atmosphere of natrium that it never had before. Mercury, the planet closest to the Sun, now has grown polar ice. Venus' brightness has skyrocketed by 2,500%, had experienced major changes in its atmosphere in the last 4 decades. Meanwhile, further away from the sun than the Earth, Mars has melted polar ice caps and its magnitude of storms has strengthened exponentially. Jupiter has had the brightest of its plasma clouds increase 200%, accompanied by a pattern of intermittent thickening then weakening. The largest planet in our solar system's enormous belts have been changing color, with radiation levels erratically waning and then flaring up again. An increase in asteroid and comet activity crashing into Jupiter, likely from Nibiru's entrance into our solar system, has also been observed. During the last 3 decades, the jet stream on Saturn's equator has slowly in velocity, while X-rays at the equator have spiked. Has slowed, in velocity, while X-rays at the equator have spiked. Yeah, Uranus has become brighter with a huge flare-up of storm activity when it surfaced before it was always placid. Neptune has also increased in brightness by 40%. The atmosphere pressure on Pluto has jumped up by 300%, despite it moving further from the sun. The glowing plasma on the edge of our solar system has increased 1,000%. Profound changes being measured in space are unprecedented. An increase in energy emissions is changing the fundamental structure of all matter throughout our solar system. Taken together, these massive across-the-board changes most likely are all effects from Planet X moving through our solar system. Of course, changes on the Earth have been produced as well, most notably with the electromagnetic changes, yearly incremental polar axis changes, and extreme weather changes. For instance, North Pole Alaska recently saw its late spring temperatures soar to the mid-high 80s Fahrenheit. From 1963 to 1993, the frequency of natural disasters globally has leapt up by 410%, and in more recent years the rate of disasters has soared even higher, with an increasing number of volcanic eruptions along the Pacific Ring of Fire and earthquakes felt globally, particularly along the San Andreas and the New Madrid fault lines, coupled with the Nepal 7.8 earthquake a couple of months ago. This is last year, by the way. Major volcanic and earthquake activity in 2015 is rapidly on the rise. As early as November 2013, 10 different long dormant volcanoes went active, first suggesting Planet X's presence. The rate of volcanic eruptions from 1875 to 1975 has increased by 500%, but even greater now. An exponential increase in 3.0 or higher earthquakes are shaking America's heartland due to fracking. In Oklahoma alone, going from 2 or 3 a year prior to fracking to 562 last year alone. Since 1973, earthquakes have risen worldwide by 400%. 6.0 magnitude earthquakes or greater have also spiked in recent years, jumping on average from 108.5 earthquakes per year in 1980 to 1989 decade to 160.9 earthquakes per year from 2000 to 2009, increasing by 38.9%. In the first quarter of 2014 alone, more than twice as many large earthquakes occurred than on average since 1979. 2 months ago, scientists at the European Science Foundation warned that in the years to come, there is a 5 to 10% chance that a colossal-sized volcano could send the Earth back to pre-civilization status. A significant rise in landslides and floods have also been measured. For the last 2,000 years, the Earth's magnetic field has been decreasing gradually, but in the last 500 years, that decrease has become much more dramatic. Just this month, scientists have been shocked at the alarming rate that the Earth's magnetosphere has been disappearing. The planet's natural shield preventing solar winds and radiation from reaching the Earth's surface is being lost. This disturbing discovery comes while solar storm activity is flaring up this year. These solar blasts seriously threaten to interfere with satellite and GPS communications and risk bursts of electromagnetic pulses. if not launched by EMP weapons in the wrong hands like ISIS. That could be lethal to America's power grid, instantaneously placing millions of people in the dark without any source of electricity for months or even years at a time. Effects from a diminishing magnetic field would double the amount of radiation, causing an epidemic of skin cancer deaths. Climate change and magnify extreme weather. Solar winds would eliminate ions that allow the Earth to retain water and air. All these horrific changes are happening right now. What next to no scientist who wants to stay alive is revealing is that this torrid rate of ecological degradation and life-killing Earth surface changes are more than likely caused by Planet X racing ever closer towards us. Another rather peculiar development to the Planet X story has been Google Sky's strange actions. Several years ago, no doubt in literally keeping with the media blackout, Google actually did black out the grid in the sky to ensure that Planet X was X'd out of its sky map. Then about a week ago, Google Sky mysteriously reinserted back in the missing grid, fully depicting the flaming winged Nibiru. So it's visible from both the actual sky and Google Sky now. More evidence that the tide is turning towards the truth, Planet X. I haven't seen that. I've not looked. Never mind. Maybe it's there. Back in mid-April, the European Space Agency invited astronomers, physicists, nuclear engineers, mathematicians, and even soldiers in space defense from around the world to a conference in a Rome suburb to discuss the topic of an asteroid striking the Earth with the proposed hypothesis, not if, but when. Sounds familiar to the Nibiru cataclysm scenario, minus the Forbidden Planet, of course. This planetary defense conference strategized, how to collectively handle near-Earth objects, NEOs, plunging towards us using space weapons technology, has been an annual event the last 6 years. 12,700 asteroids have been identified as NEOs with orbits coming within 120 million miles. That's pretty much the end of the article. It just says about him. Joachim Hajopian is a West Point graduate and former US Army officer. He has written a manuscript based on his unique military experience entitled Don't Let Me, the Bastards Get You Down. He focuses on international relations, leadership, national security, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there's a lot of conjecture in there. But I'll just quickly move on to, now this was finished, this article was written last year, before this came out. And I'll just play this little video. Hopefully, if I put it on full screen, Jeff.
Okay, mate, I can see it. I can see it is in small screen at the moment.
Right, okay, let's see if we can get it to work.
What we have discovered is that numerous features of the Kuiper Belt, a field of icy debris beyond the orbit of Neptune, can be understood if the solar system, the ninth planet that resides well beyond the orbits of the known planets.
When we looked at the outer solar system, we realized that while most of the very distant objects, these objects beyond Neptune, beyond Pluto, most of these objects, they all go around the sun and they're all sort of pointing off in all different directions. But the most distant objects all swing out in one direction in a very strange way that shouldn't happen. And we realized that the only way we could get them to all swing in one direction is if there is a massive planet, also very distant in the solar system, keeping them in place while they all go around the sun. And we started looking at this and thinking, this must be either a coincidence or it's caused by something else. It can't be caused by a planet because that's crazy. There are no planets out there. I went from trying very hard to be skeptical that what we were talking about was true to suddenly thinking, oh, this actually might even be true.
So the object itself likely is more massive than the Earth, probably a little bit less massive than Neptune. sits right in between that terrestrial to giant icy planet range. Its orbit, unlike the orbits of the known planets, is not nearly circular and planar. Instead, it is exceptionally wide, 20 times bigger than the orbit of Neptune. The orbital period of the Earth is, of course, 1 year. The orbital period of Jupiter, the big player in our solar system, is about 10 years. The orbital period of this putative ninth planet is 20,000 years.
We have nothing like it in the solar system, so it's new for us. It is, however, the most common mass of planets that have been found around all of the other stars. People have always looked at all these other planets in this strange mass range and said, wow, I wonder what these are. I don't know what these are because we don't have anything like it in the solar system. Looks like maybe we do. There are many telescopes on the Earth that actually have a chance of being able to find it. And I think that many people would be inspired to use their telescopes. I'm really hoping that as we announce this, people will start a worldwide search to go find this ninth planet.
History shows us that it's a bad idea to consistently say we have now reached the end of the solar system and there's nothing beyond what we already know.
And all those people who are mad that Pluto is no longer a planet to be thrilled to know that there's a real planet out there still to be found.
There we are. But what I'll do is I'll just move straight over to here. That was, they announced this team, because they followed on from the other guy's work that I mentioned in that article about these ET and whatever they are, Neptune dwarf planets were being affected. Well, that's when they done that survey, and these come out, these guys, Brown and Konstantin Batkin and whatever, from the Caltech research NASA stuff, and they come up with a theory and everything.
To be honest, Stav, I don't think they have got a bloody clue what they're talking about, these people. I think it's just a lot of speculation and theory. I understand that what they're saying fundamentally is that if you've got effects of planets being affected by these gravitational fields or whatever it is, you know, they can suspect that there's something there causing it, but they don't know. They simply don't know. It's like so much to do with science that it's all theory, isn't it? There's no hard evidence. And what you have to take into consideration, Stav, is that the vast majority of stuff that's out there, you can't actually see. So when they talk about meteors, cataclysmic meteors hitting the Earth, I mean, even if they had the ability to be able to defend and nudge these off of their trajectory to keep them away from Earth, the vast majority of them you can't see, and you don't know that they're coming. You see what I'm saying?
No, that's right. Just finish. I won't read all of this. This is just this goes over what they were saying, whatever.
Oh right, mate. Like them. What you do it?
There's the here's the planet 9 and its orbit. Here we are. That's the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, and then you've got all of these other dwarf planets they're finding. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that most of these are confirmed visually now, by the way, telescopes. Yeah. So, but they can't find this. I haven't seen this. This is what they're looking for. That influences these trans-Neptune dwarf planets to make them go here. It can't be just us doing it. It's got to be influenced by something else. This is how they found the other planets over the centuries, is by this magnetic influence. And it's always been proven, as far as what we believe, what we're told, the pictures of space from NASA and these planets. I mean, we could throw the whole lot in the bin and say, look, there's no other planets, only us in the whole galaxy. There's lights up there, but they could be firebugs, who knows? But just entertaining all of this. But what it says down here is the evidence mounts. Now, since that video and all that, I think it was last month, that these come out with. They found more of these planets, these little ones here, 2 more or 3 more, and they're doing the same thing. For the past few years, Shepard Trulio, which is the guys who I referred to in the other article, and David Tolan of the University of Hawaii have been hunting for objects in the far outer space solar system using several different instruments, including the Nibiru telescope in Hawaii and dark energy camera, which is installed on a 4-meter telescope at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory in Chile. The new study, which has been accepted for publication in the Astronomical Journal, reports this survey latest finds. The astronomers discovered several dozen previously unknown bodies, including a roughly 155-mile wide 250 meter object called 2013 FE72 that gets an incredible 4,000 astronomical units. That is, 1 astronomical unit in their terms is the distance between us and the sun. But these things here, you're seeing, are 4,000 times that distance from us. So that's what 4,000 AU means, astronomical units. That means 1 astronomical unit means the distance between us and the sun. So I just thought I'd give you a quick layman's interpretation of that, which is very limited. There you go. From the sun at its most distant point, that puts it out in the outer Oort cloud, the realm of the comets. Its orbit is probably controlled and highly perturbed by outside forces such as other stars and things like that, Shepard said. 225-mile wide, 200-kilometer objects known as 2014 SR349 and 2013 FT28 that cluster in one of the key orbital parameters known as argument of perihelion, further strengthening the case for Planet 9's existence. The objects' names reflect the years that they were first spotted in the survey. Their discovery is being announced in the new study. We have 15 or so of these extreme objects now, and all of them cluster in the argument of the perihelion angle, Shepard said. Furthermore, he added the 5 most distant of these 15 extreme objects share similarities in another orbital characteristic as well, one called longitude of perihelion. Significantly, the far-flung 5 are too distant to be realistically affected by any gravitational tugs from Neptune, whose influence could be the reason the other 10 objects' longitudes of perihelion don't line up. It would take just 2 or 3 more such additional finds to put Planet 9 on solid ground, Shepard said. I think statistic-wise, in the next 2 years, we'll probably find enough of these small extreme objects to really say if Planet X exists or not. So there we are. He says here, well, I'll just finish it off. Getting a look at Planet 9. Finding Planet 9 via a blind search would be incredibly difficult and time-consuming. The putative world, while big, would also be quite faint because of its immense distance from the sun. The planet's huge and as yet undetermined orbital path also means it could be hiding anywhere along a large swathe of sky. But Brown has said the Planet 9 may well be visible through powerful telescopes, provided astronomers point them in the right direction at the right time. And the ongoing survey Shepard and his colleagues are performing should help researchers do that. We need like 10 or 20 of these smaller extreme objects, and we can probably nail down much better where Planet X would be out there, Shepard said. So there we are. That's about all the coverage I've got for Planet X and things, but this is dated August the 29th, 2016, a couple of months ago, and they're still finding these other planets, or whatever they are, dwarf planets, and they're pretty confident they're going to find this thing. So is it Nibiru?
They be classifying things and changing them. I mean, if you look at when I was a kid, we grew up knowing that there were 9 planets from the sun outwards You had Mercury, Venus, Earth being the third planet, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Then they reclassified Pluto, so it's no longer given planet status. I don't know what they're calling it now, but calling it a big asteroid or something like that, a regular shaped asteroid. And then, like you said, that article you just read said that the ninth planet, presumably they're talking about Nibiru there being the ninth planet. Then they're saying planet X, which is presumably Roman numeral for the 10th planet. Then somebody else was saying it is the 12th planet. So I don't think these people know whether they're on their heads or their asses, quite frankly. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, well, it's what they did. Was what they changed what they define as a planet. Pluto originally was a planet, and then this brown guy, that brown guy who was on that video, he's responsible for demoting it. If that's the right word, is it?
Yeah.
Putting it down to one of the planets,
Right.
which isn't technically big enough to be a planet as we know it. So they moved the goalposts, they renamed these things, and it's the same with the solar system. Well, the solar system would be the galaxy.
Well,
galaxy.
How do you actually define a planet as a planet, Stav? How do you actually?
Pardon?
How do you actually define a planet as a planet? I mean, is it got to be something that's spherical? I know
it's got to be
that
spherical. I think is one of the criteria. The other thing is it's got to be of the size that it can clear other things from its gravitational orbit. It's got to be able to push things away. It's got to be able to clear its own
gravity things towards
it. It's got to
be away.
Do that.
But gravity pull things towards it, don't they? They don't push it away; they pull it towards it.
Well, it's got to be able to clear. Well, Jupiter doesn't. If it wasn't for Jupiter, we'd been smashed to pieces, according to them. Because of the size of Jupiter, it clears and deflects all of these a lot of the crap that would otherwise come in our solar system on course for Earth. Apparently, it's responsible for clearing out most of the debris.
It makes you actually question the nature of gravity, or whether there is such a thing as gravity, though, Stav, because I mean, we've got a moon which is allegedly abnormally large for a planet of our size that orbits us once a month, and it doesn't come towards us. In fact, the moon is going away from us at a rate of about 10 miles a year, I think it is.
Well, so don't forget, it pulls. It's like anything. If you pull something towards you, but it's not quite close enough to stick to you, it'll pull around in an arc, and then it will catapult you the opposite way round, as well as pull you.
It's very strange, isn't it, to get your head around that concept, because you naturally think that a big mass would attract a smaller mass, and that's
but if it's not, but if it's at the extremities.
I mean,
right.
Our moon, exactly, it's not a round orbit either, is it? Our moon has got an elliptical orbit around our planet, hasn't it?
Allegedly, yes. I think so. I'm not on.
It's not always the same distance. I mean, the average distance is about 250,000 miles from Earth, isn't it? But if it's an elliptical orbit, there's times when it would be closer to Earth than that, and there's times when it would be further away from Earth.
Well, I think it's quite absurd. It's quite the only thing about it all to say we have a solar system, we have the amount of planets we can see with our eyes or with a binocular, and that's it. I mean, that's quite absurd to make a statement like that. To say there's nothing else out there. Oh yeah, but we can see these stars that are light years.
You know how they? I mean, when they search for these planets that are in other solar systems, what they go by is the wobble effect, because they can't actually see them. So what they do is they can see the star, which is the sun of that solar system, but they can't actually see what surrounds it because it's so small, so far away, and it's not necessarily giving off enough light to actually see it. So what they go by is the wobble effect. As the planet circles that sun, it causes a slight wobble, if you like, of the effect of the gravity on that star causes a wobble, and they detect the wobble. That's how they know that there's a planet actually there.
With the Kepler, this is all alleged. I mean, this is what we're told by NASA.
Yeah.
With the Kepler telescope they put up in, was it 4 years ago, and they've counted all of these Earth-like planets around distant stars in different parts of the and other galaxies, for crying out loud. I mean, they count the dimming of the planets passing the star graph, the amount of light that gets deflected. It's so tiny, it's unreal. It's unreal. And this is how they've amassed a load of data with this Kepler of thousands and thousands of planets around hundreds of other stars that they've took periodic shots at over the past 4 or 5 years. And they have all this. Looking at the data, it takes years.
Well, what they're trying to find is Goldilocks planet. The planet within a similar sort of distance from their star as we are from ours, that would be more likely, in their opinion, to have life on it.
Yeah,
because it would be a similar sort of temperature, a similar sort of distance from their sun, and it would fit all those criteria. But I don't necessarily agree with those assertions, because what we found is that life can exist in the most hostile environment. I mean, if you look on Earth, you only have to look on Earth to see that, because we thought that nothing could exist in, like, say, boiling water, for example. But we've now found that life can exist in hydrothermal vents, which is, up to about 300 degrees Celsius. You've got, bacteria and crustaceans and things and all sorts that can exist at really, really high temperatures. And yet, by the same token, we've got bacteria that can exist in, what do they call that? Ice, permafrost. It's, in permafrost, so many meters down inside the ice. And things like that.
Well, that's right.
Blue-green algae and things like that, So I think.
Well,
I was just going to say, I think life can exist in far more hostile conditions than we can consider. I think the primary thing is whether there's water or not. That's the main thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, what you're saying is, can you sum it in the words of illogical or logical? Actually, it's illogical, but people say, I know what you mean. In the words of a sci-fi Star Trek, it's life, Jim, but not as we know it.
Right. Well, this is it. I mean, we all we know on Earth is carbon-based life forms on Earth. But there could like silicon-based life forms or all sorts. This is what I mean. But this Nibiru, getting back on topic, Nibiru, I think they don't seem. It's all very vague to me. They classify it as the 9th planet, the 10th planet, the 12th planet. It's one size, it's another size. It's 10 times the size, and it's all very vague. It's like they don't really know. They know that there's something they're affecting, causing an effect on the orbital paths of these outer solar system bodies, but they don't seem to know exactly what it is.
Well, it's a word, isn't it? It's just a word, Nibiru. I mean, I hope some other guys could have came on tonight, because they may have been a bit more knowledgeable in the ancient texts and all the different terms for Nibiru or the word, which all I can go on is the little bit I've read about that Zachariah Sitchin and the 12th planet in the book he wrote and that sort of thing. But there's Nemesis. It's all these different. Are they the same thing? Are they referring to something else? Because I mean, there's a lot of YouTube videos you can go out there. They refer to you know, they say it's Nibiru Planet X system, or Planet X. Is Planet X one planet, or is it the Planet X system? Which what, you know, and there's lots of theories out there that you know, I don't know whether they all get mixed up, or the separate things of theories about separate planets or binary stars or dwarf stars or whatever they are. I mean, Patrick Moore.
I don't think they can actually call it a theory at the moment. I think a hypothesis maybe, but I don't think.
A hypothesis.
I think they're a little bit too vague on things to be able to call it a theory, you know, as such. But yeah, as for the cataclysmic events and that, some of those articles it's saying like what 109 earthquakes a year or something like that. I think that's absolutely wrong, because I think we get thousands of earthquakes on planet Earth every year, literally thousands. So
well, there is some factual stuff you can check yourself. The magnetic poles have shifted.
Yeah,
and you can see that.
I have read about it.
So something's up with that. All I would suggest to people is, this is just my suggestion.
That's what's causing the magnetosphere to break down, isn't it? Is the shift in the shift.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I would say to people, look, best thing to do is get yourself a reasonably cheap telescope or powerful pair of binoculars. Guy, nice dark place, and have a look round at these planets like Jupiter, Saturn, and see them for yourself. Then when you've seen them for yourself, you can make your own conclusions. And then you can say, am I seeing all that I'm seeing? Is it a projected image from NASA's laser, whatever in the sky? Well, you can ask yourself all those questions. But first and foremost is go and look yourself and see even these nearer planets that are confirmed as planets and we've known since we were kids. Go and look at them yourself. If you've never looked at them yourself, then everything you say is just repetition of what somebody else is saying.
I used to have a telescope, Stav. I used to have one of these refractors, because you've got two types of telescope, haven't you? You've got a reflecting telescope, which uses mirrors, and you've got the refractive one that uses lenses. But the one that I had, because I live in a big city and with all the light pollution and that, I didn't get too much, to be honest. All I could use it for was basically looking at the moon. But I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any planets through it at all, because there's way too much light pollution, you know.
Well, that's something, Jeff. A lot of people haven't even looked at the moon with a pair of binoculars. You'd be surprised how few people on this earth has actually looked at the moon with magnification, whether it's binoculars or telescopes. In actual fact, I think you'll find there's not many people that have looked at the moon for more than 2 minutes in their life.
Right. Wouldn't surprise me, actually, Stav, yeah. As for the cataclysmic events and all that, I think the way I would look at it is probably the highest risk that we would have for something hitting Earth would probably be an asteroid knocked off of its trajectory from the meteor belt, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. I mean, yeah, there's the Kuiper belt, which is essentially another asteroid belt, isn't it? Further out past the Oort cloud or by the Oort cloud. But it's unlikely that you're going to get sort of, well, I suppose it's possible, but I think it's probably most likely from our asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. I know, I quite agree that it's a case of when, not if, with regards to things hitting the Earth, because we're hit all the time by different sized asteroids. It happens all the time. The small ones get burnt off and you see a shooting star, which is effectively one burning up into the Earth's atmosphere.
Well, there's something people
don't always burn. The larger ones obviously don't always burn off quite as much, and some of it actually enters the atmosphere and survives it. But
There's experiments people can do themselves. You know, people can, if somebody, right, for a start, whether you believe what's online is entirely up to anybody, but you can go to live, right, you can go to a station that's running live now, and you can hear almost all of the meteors coming in to the atmosphere. And it's done by transmitting, by listening. A receiver, a radio receiver, is tuned to the horizon, to an area, right, on a frequency. I think it's VHF in this country. It might be different in America. It tunes to stations that are out of range. It won't hear with normal ground waves, so it can't hear it. But when a meteoroid comes into the atmosphere, it ionizes the ions in the ionosphere, and for short bursts, you will hear very, very, very tiny bits of that transmission of that radio station you can't hear normally, and that is the trail of the meteor igniting the ions in the ionosphere, which reflects the radio wave from the far distant transmitter, that you can hear it, and you can hear the meteors coming in the atmosphere 24/7, and there's an awful lot of them. There's more meteors that come in than people realise.
Well, most of it is small particles of dust, you know, smaller than a grain of sand.
Well, you say that, but then if you get you can get something like about a metre size coming in, but by the time it gets through the atmosphere, it's burnt up to a time.
What I'm saying is, Stav, the vast majority of it is like dust particles. It's very, very small dust particles. Obviously, the larger.
I don't know, Fred. I don't go out space and watch them come in.
The larger ones are rarer. So the larger it gets, the rarer they are. If that makes any sense, but the dust, I mean, there's huge clouds of dust particles. When we go through, like, the Perseids, for example, have you heard of the Perseids meteor?
Meteor showers, the two main ones during the equinoxes. I used to use radio transmissions and bounce my signals off the ionosphere on the trails of them coming in, yeah.
That's right. You've got the Leonids, the Perseids, you've got all these different ones. I think they're probably the two most common ones.
Yeah.
Where it looks like they're coming from, so the constellation Leo, you've got the Leonids, and then you've got the Perseids from the constellation Perseus, I think it is. Yeah, they're basically dust particles, and even a dust, something the size of a grain of sand, can produce, you know, a shooting star that can be visible to us.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite incredible that something that small can light up, you know, and produce that sort of effect. But imagine something big. I mean, we've had big meteors hitting the Earth as well, but they're obviously less frequent. So the killer size ones, like the mass extinction type events, are very, very, very rare, and they don't happen very often. But, you know, obviously, eventually it would happen. So eventually one of these big things are going to hit us. So it is a case of when, not if.
Absolutely.
Of course, you can't just go on the size of these things, because it's also about what is made of. So the ones that are made of rock, by and large, break up into smaller particles. But then you get the ones that are made of heavy metals and things like that, or have got a lot of metal in them. They can cause a lot more damage. And then, of course, you have to go by the speed of them as well, because they're all traveling at different speeds, these things.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's, you know, again, I mean, but people can do their own thing. I mean, you say they're always moving the goalposts, right? There was a theory put out there until an event happened quite recently in Japan. Right. This theory was earthquakes, okay? And it doesn't move the crusts, the fractures, barely an inch over hundreds of years from all these earthquakes. Yeah, that was the theory up until of Japan. Now, do you know how far it moved certain parts of the Japanese island above sea level from that one event.
No, go on.
How much was it, Nick? How many feet was it? 8 feet.
Yeah, well, you know what happens there, don't you?
Well, it doesn't matter what happens. What I'm saying is, Jeff, this doesn't happen. This never happens in history. Scientists said it didn't happen before this happened. It's a preposterous thing to even think about, but it happened.
I think actually it usually happens when you get an earthquake. What happens is the you end up with one of the plates sliding under the other plate, which forces the plate above up. You know what I mean? And that's what causes tsunamis.
Yeah. That part of the island is now 8 feet higher than it was the day before. To scientists, before that happened, that sort of thing can never happen.
Yeah, they don't always get it right.
See what I'm saying? So when they say, "Oh, this won't happen," that won't happen. Yeah, well, I can actually say with the earthquakes, I've been following them lately. Within 12 months, we'll have what we would term a major earthquake in the UK.
What, once a year?
No, we're going to have one in the next 12 months that will cause a lot of damage in the UK. That's what I reckon's going to. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I've not prophesied. But
you reckon that's to do with the fracking?
No, nothing to do with the fracking.
All right. Why'd you reckon that?
Not many people know that a 4.8 was recorded in southern France the other day.
Well, we do get tremors here anyway. We have had quite a few earthquakes here over the years in England, but not.
We had one in Folkestone a few years ago,
right,
down the south coast. Right, it destroyed some houses and roadways, and it was only a small, what we would term a tremor. It was about 4.1, I think it was, something like that. But it caused a lot of damage. Have the infrastructure. If it's shallow enough, a 5.6, something like that, could devastate a city in the UK, literally.
Yeah.
But people say, well, we don't have earthquakes. Well, we do. I mean, people don't know.
We get to, people think, oh, we don't get twisters in England. We do, but they're tiny.
Yeah,
they're tiny.
yeah.
Whereas in America, because it's a bigger landmass, you get these massive twisters and things. But we still get them here, but they're very, very small.
Well, do you know, on a landmass, for landmass area, the amount of tornadoes in a year, the UK is higher than America. Did you know that?
For the amount that we get, for the amount of twisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very small twisters. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I've experienced 6 in my life.
I haven't seen one.
I've actually been inside one, being blown about. How about that? It was only an F0, perhaps, if you want.
What's that?
But anyway, it was only what they would term an F0, about 30, 40 mile an hour wind. But it's freezing cold, and I looked straight up the funnel. Straight up, straight through a hole, straight away through the blue sky. How about that?
Blimey. So you could see actually through the eye of the storm, sort of thing.
Yep. Yep. I didn't have a camera on me at the time. I was in the middle of a field, but that's another story. But I think in all, I mean, just sort of getting back to the subject tonight of Nibiru.
Strange man.
Calling it shouldn't be called. Yeah, I don't think really Nibiru, calling it other planets in what we term our solar system, more than likely, and what we term outside our solar system, more bloody likely, I would say, than not, because you've got this other phenomena which is very common throughout the galaxy, allegedly again, these rogue planets that don't belong to any solar system. They move through the galaxy. And any one of those that comes through and comes near our solar system is capable of throwing our orbit off into an elliptical orbit that would probably cause a hell of a lot of problems for life on Earth, probably make us extinct. So who knows? But I mean, this is all conjecture. And do we believe what we're told? You only know what you're told.
Probably highly likely, Stav, to be honest, because we're in basically, you know, a shooting range, if you like. These things come in and out of our solar system all the time. We get a lot of close misses as well of big objects that pass like sort of about the distance of roughly our moon. You know,
yeah, probably.
If something comes in as close as 250,000 miles away, then that is a close miss in astronomical terms. So, you know, what we're talking here, we get these things passed through all the time. We've had so many near misses. So it's only a matter of time before something does hit us. You know, it's a certainty.
I would say so. Now we've got somebody coming here with a lady in a bra and whatever it is.
Oh, we've got
what's that?
We've got
Hello?
coming on the chat, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Hello? Who's the... Or is that an interloper? What is that? Can you see that, Jeff?
I can see another picture down on the bottom next to my...
Is that a picture of a lady in a bikini or something?
Oh no, it's somebody. If I put the pointer over it, it says Marky.
Well, yeah. Well, would you like to introduce yourself, Marky? Marky, hello. No, Mike. I got an invite. PJ.
Stav, they're saying hello. No, I got an invite from PJ. So they've got no Mike.
Oh, right. Okay. Are you Matthew? Are you Matthew, Marky? Ah, right. So you got no Mike. Right.
Hi, Marky.
Well, we just. Well, we just pretty much was wrapping. Hello, Matthew. We're just pretty much wrapping up, really. We've sort of gone through what we thought scientific evidence and a little bit of ancient theory from a certain Zachariah Sitchin about Nibiru. And we were just talking about, you know, Nibiru is one thing. Planet 9 could be something else. Planet X system with, you know, with its own star and its planets going around, which one is Planet X, etc., which is what. So basically, most likely Saturn, yeah, probably. If we're going by ancient stuff, well, what did they mean? You know, some people dismiss the astral map or whatever it was in depicted in the Sumerian clay tablets as not being anything to do with the solar system whatsoever. So lots of theories, lots of them.
Lots of interesting theories, but I'll tell you what, Stav, what I find quite amazing is that some of these ancient civilizations, they had a phenomenal knowledge of astronomy way ahead of us even today. I mean, the things that they could do in the ancient Egypt, the way they lined up their pyramids with, like, Orion's belt, the 3 stars on the Orion's belt and things like that. I mean, they had amazing knowledge of astronomy without the use of telescopes, or allegedly. I mean, I don't know, they may have had telescopes. Who knows, they might have done. They certainly had a lot of knowledge about the planet and different star systems and things like that. And they had a great understanding of time and how the different things pass through all the different ecliptics and all that, and the orbital paths and things that, you know, they were quite amazing how they knew all this stuff. It's phenomenal. So makes you wonder, doesn't it, whether they had some sort of observatories and things then. Maybe the pyramids were an observatory of some sort. Who knows?
Well, I think really what can be said about the ancients, as far as I'm concerned, is that they were much more in tune with everything than what we are today, with this materialistic consumerist. Like I say, most people don't even look up, let alone observe what's in the heavens, as we call it, or whatever. Nobody really seems to. Well, I say not nobody. A lot of people don't.
When you talk about a celestial body, they're probably thinking along the lines of Pamela Anderson or something.
Yeah, but we're very ignorant about a lot of it. I think when I say we, I mean the human species in general, the modern human 21st century human beings are.
Marky, put a link in. Marky, put a link in then. Did you want to get that link up on the screen?
Yes, that's it's. Well, I don't know if I can get it up on screen because it probably crashes now.
Oh, will it? Right.
I think I've got your site. I've had a look at your site, Matthew, and it's very interesting. A lot of knowledge on there. A lot of knowledge. So very interesting. I found it too. So thanks for that. I can send you a link to that as well, Jeff, on Facebook of Matthew's.
Right.
Oh, it's what's it called? It's not hidden knowledge, is it? It's sacred knowledge or forgotten knowledge or something. I'm sorry about that. I can't remember exactly what it. Well, I'll get you a link. It's on one of our chats on Facebook.
Right,
Jeff, and I'll pass. But well, there's some other little things that I've noticed myself that are nothing to do with the internet, nothing to do with reading books, and it came from nowhere else but my own observations, and that's to do with radio. And what I've observed is that this particular solar cycle that we've just gone through, which is the smallest since 100 years at least of them taking measurements of sunspot, or should we say sunspot counting or whatever, there was definitely a change in the solar cycle this time around that's not happened for over a century. And with the reversal of the sun's poles and all the rest of it, and now with the magnetic goings on with our own, points to me that something is changing differently than what it has done for the past 100 years at least. So I can say that there's definitely a change in our solar system at this present time than there has been for at least 100 years, to do with the sun. And my theory of the sun is that I call it fluxes, it waxes and whatever, because of other things in the solar system. Not because of us, not just because of the sun, because it's all connected. And I think the diminishing solar cycle, which we're going to witness, and a lot of people from now on in, may prove quite shocking at times, because there's going to be some things that happen that have not happened for a very long time, or maybe not even happened before in recorded history because of this period. And that I found that out myself just by monitoring radio waves with my own radio equipment. Nothing to do with internet, nothing to do with anybody else's theories, nothing to do with what anybody else has written, just myself. And that's why I say, people want to first and foremost question any of this. Before you do that, get yourself a pair of binoculars, get yourself a cheap telescope, go and look at these planets yourself in the night sky, and then think about it. Because until you see them for yourself, you're only relying on conjecture or words of somebody else reading on the internet or from a book. So it puts it a different perspective on it. Probably just confirm what you've read.
The way I look at things, Stav, is that what we can see out there is very, very little, because we see in a tiny bandwidth of the light spectrum. Not even 1%. We don't even cover, our eyesight doesn't even cover 1% of the light spectrum. So the amount of stuff that's out there is probably vast compared to what we know. You know,
Oh, yeah.
So it's basically there could be absolutely tons of stuff out. I mean, there could be. I've heard people saying, I don't know whether there's any truth in it or not, about UFOs. It's getting onto another subject ultimately, but they reckon that a lot of these UFOs are visible under ultraviolet light, at the ultraviolet part of the light spectrum, which of course we can't see in. So I don't know whether there's any truth in that or not. But what my point is that what we can actually see is minimal. It's next to nothing. It's like our hearing. If you look at our hearing, for example, as we get old, I mean, we hear from so many hertz up to about 24 kilohertz, I think it is, something like that. And as we grow older, that diminishes because our hearing depreciates. But other animals can hear on a much higher frequency. For example, like dogs, they can hear on a much higher frequency. So
Yeah.
you know, we're very limited by our powers of perception are very limited.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just feel that if people don't look for themselves, and if they just pull everything off of the internet and just say, well, I mean, I've done that tonight, but it was an article to kind of put some sort of perspective on this Nibiru thing, which I openly admit I know pretty much jack crap about, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I was opening for one or two people. Yeah, but I mean, I can only go on that. But you know, I think if everybody's just going to read what everybody else writes about, then we're all just going to be papagaios, I think is the Italian word for it, which means parrot. You know, so people need to do their own thing as well before they can have their own aspect. And then you need your own. You need to see certain things, even if you can only see what you can see on the internet. Viewing it yourself is a different thing altogether. I mean, how many people goes out in the middle of the night, remote place where there's no light at all affecting you, and just lay on your back? I've done it as a kid, because I was brought up in the country, and I just used to look up into the stars on a clear night, and just look and keep seeing more and more and more and more and more, quadrillion and things.
Yeah. I think it's also
important. People that's done that nowadays. You know?
I was going to mention that if you do start stargazing, yeah, get away from the city, go out into somewhere where there's little light pollution, and also you have to let your eyes become accustomed. So it takes a while for your eyes to become accustomed, and then you'll start to see more stuff over the course of, you know, over a course of, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to let your eyes become accustomed, 10, 15, 20 minutes or something. So
well, can you imagine if everybody observed the sky for 1 hour every night, everybody in the world, 7 billion or whatever it is, right? If everybody done that, even with the most primitive of equipment, I would think there would be more evidence for things now than we have now, with big telescopes jotted here and there, a few people looking at data they've collected with these powerful telescopes and in certain directions. I reckon there'd be more revealed just by people with primitive equipment, all looking, more people looking at more of the time. Not a lot of people think like that. I certainly do. And I think quite
often is the amateur astronomers that find the stuff that the big guys miss. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's a lot of truth in what you say there.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Like I say, most people in this modern world don't even look up. They don't even look. What's chemtrails? What's a contrail? You know,
they don't even see what's in front of their own eyes.
Oh, of course they're not. If they do know what you're on about, say, "Oh yeah, I saw it on Google the other night. I was looking at those." Have you not seen them yourself? No, I've not looked. I saw them on Google. That's good enough for me. I saw them on the computer, so it must be true. You know, and this is
Right.
what people. This is getting connected back with it, and this is what the ancients were far more superior because in knowledge that way, because they looked, they observed, they never worried about, you know,
Nowadays,
putting
you're
things.
distracted by things like X Factor on television and gun dancing and things like that, aren't they? So,
What a load of crap, isn't it? Hey, what people spend their time watching on the tube of truth.
nature's got some amazing things to go out there. Go out there and enjoy it. And, you know, that's what I say. Go out there and literally take it in and appreciate what we've got.
That's why I think people should watch. If ever they will watch something on YouTube, and I think most people that are what we would term half awake or whatever have seen, is go and watch the Network film. Yeah.
Oh, Network. Yeah, I love that film. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, go and watch that, and all will be revealed, and then you'll hopefully, if you get the message, you'll probably throw the bloody television out the window or put a sledgehammer through it.
Or you'll all be sticking your heads out the window shouting, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, you look like the Tube, you act like the Tube, you dress like the Tube.
That's it, yeah. I like the end bit where he was called into the office and the bloke was saying,
Yes.
There's no countries anymore, Mr. Bill. Mr. Bill, there is only corporations. It is one immutable big business or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is bloody, it's very
But it'll-
I reckon, in a way.
Yeah, but it all fits. Anyway, look, Jeff, it's been fun. I think we've
Always a
not exhausted. I don't expect we've. Eh?
I was just saying, it's always
Sorry.
a pleasure, mate.
Okay, well, listen. Anyway, Matthew, if you listen, I'm going to stop the broadcast now, and I'll leave it going if you want a quick chat afterwards or whatever. If you get your microphone fixed, that is, me, mate. I know you're in the States somewhere, but I think you're on the West Coast, maybe.
California.
No, I think up towards the top coast part. Is it? I can't remember anyway. But anyway, thanks for coming on, Jeff. I'd have been lost without you tonight. I'd have been talking to myself as usual.
No problem, mate. You're getting good at that, ain't you, Stav?
Well, Nikki says I do it all the time. The missus says I do it all the time. So I guess I'm used to it. I don't know.
You know what they say, Stav, don't you? The first signs of madness is when you got hairs growing on the palms of your hands.
Yeah.
The second sign is looking for them.
All right. Cheers, Jeff.